Hi, this is a practice video and it's an imitation game. This imitation game is going to focus on all of the fingerings from basic scale. If that means nothing to you, you need to go look at the basic scale video first and get a sense of what that means, and then come on back. For those of you who've been with me along the path so far, you already know what basic scale is. And if you've seen the first two imitation games, you know a little bit about how these work, but let's just do a quick review for those who are joining us for the first time. This imitation game is going to be focused on basic scale. That means all 6 fingerings in basic scale, starting from the very bottom with all holes covered that we're calling fingering number 1, all the way up to the top with everything except hole number 3 covered. We're calling that fingering number 6. Okay. This is an imitation game. That means I'm going to be playing short patterns of pitches, all of them from basic scale. Your job is to quickly memorize what you're hearing and let your ear tell your fingers how to reproduce it. So I will play the pattern and give you time to play it back, and then we'll move on. Right, remember again, this is about full basic scale. So one of the challenges here is going to be staying relaxed while we practice, right? Making sure that your fingers don't stray too far from the holes so that when they need to get back and cover them again, they can quickly. It's easy in a game like this to start building up tension, especially in the hands and the forearms. So try to stay as relaxed as possible. Remember, we don't have to squeeze the flute. We just need to get that hole fully covered with the pad of our finger. Right? If you start hearing some unusual sounds, it might mean that one or more of the holes is not getting fully covered. So try to keep that awareness as we go. All right, game is pretty simple at the outset here. We're going to start with patterns that are either 3 or 4 notes long. All of the movement will be conjunct. If you've seen the earlier imitation game videos, that means that we will always go to the next available fingering on one side or the other from where we are. So if I'm on fingering 3, you know that the next note will either be fingering 2, going down 1, or we'll be fingering 4, going up 1. Those are the options. So for now, all conjunct motion, 3 or 4 note patterns. And I'm even going to be really nice and tell you what pitch we're starting on. Right? That should make it a lot easier. But I am going to sit down so you can't see my fingers. I want you to do this from your ear. Listen carefully and let your ear tell your fingers what to do. All right, here we go. This is pattern 1, and it is starting on fingering 3. Number 2. It's going to start on fingering 6, the very top of basic scale. Here is number 3. It is starting on pitch 2 of basic scale. And here is pattern number 4. It is starting on fingering 4 of basic scale. All right, if you need to review those, go right ahead. If you need to take a little break, go right ahead. But we'll be moving on. All right, now we're going to make it just a little bit more complicated. 3 to 5 notes in the pattern. So 3, 4, or 5 notes in the pattern. The motion will still be conjunct, meaning always going to the next fingering available, one side or the other. But this time I am not going to tell you which note in basic scale I am starting on. Except for the very, very first one. I'll tell you we're going to start at the bottom. So this first pattern starts on fingering 1, and here we go. Pattern number 2. Pattern number 3. Right, here's the next one, and I'm going just a little bit quicker now. And here's the last one. I find that it helps a great deal to start to be able to recognize patterns within the things that you're hearing. So for example, if you were listening carefully, you may have noticed that that last pattern that I played basically walked from the top of basic scale down to fingering 3 like this, and then went back up. It changed directions and went back up a little bit. Right? So sometimes it's helpful to kind of keep the ear listening for patterns so that instead of having to memorize individual fingerings as we go along, you can think, hey, I just heard a pattern that walked from the top of basic scale almost to the bottom of basic scale. And then you're remembering one thing instead of 5 or 6 things. All right, again, if you need to, take a little break. If you need to review, go ahead and review. In the meantime, you can kind of shake things out a little bit, release any tension that's building up from concentrating so hard. Get a little drink of water if you need to. And let's move on. All right, we're going to make things even more challenging now. The patterns are going to get longer. They can be anywhere from 4 to 7 notes now. Right? 7 notes is starting to be a pretty long pattern to try to remember on one hearing. So you're going to really need to pay attention. And there will be skips now, meaning that it won't always go to the next available fingering. It might skip from 1 to 3. It might even skip from like 6 to 2 or something like that, a really, really big skip. As we go through the patterns here, there will be more and more skips, and the skips might become bigger and bigger. Right? So this will be a more challenging exercise all the way around. Also, as we get into the patterns, at some point I'm going to start playing them more quickly. So your ear's going to have to listen really hard and fast, right? And communicate to your fingers what's coming next. And of course at this point I'm not telling you what note I'm starting on at all. All right, here we go. All set? Get as relaxed as possible. Good posture, good breathing. Here we go. Pattern 1. Number 2. This one's even longer. Listen carefully. All right, good job. Now we're going to try going even a little bit faster now. Right, so really open your ears nice and wide. Here's the next pattern. Here's the next one. There was a really big skip in there. Did you get it? Another thing that I find it really helpful to listen for very carefully is to stay oriented around fingering 1 and fingering 6. And kind of make a little special note whenever you hear one of those along the way. Can kind of help you figure out where you are in the larger scheme of things. All right, here comes a really challenging pattern. It is a long one, and there are some skips in it. All right. If you're listening for patterns, you may have noticed that this started high, wobbled its way down, and then kind of jumped its way back up again. And so again, that big pattern can help you hear sometimes what a longer set of notes is doing. Right, here comes another long one. There was another nice pattern in there. Did you catch it? Every other note was the same. Listen to that one again. See if you can catch it. Till the very end. The pattern broke at the very end to get us back to 1. Right, 3 more patterns to go, then we'll take a little break. And last one. Those of you who have a musical background of one kind or another, those sounds, those patterns probably sounded pretty familiar to you. One of them just sounded like a minor arpeggio. Right? The other sounded like a minor 7 arpeggio, as did the last one. It just went on longer, went up and down a bit, or down and up, more specifically. Right? Okay, good. That's a good spot to take a little break, and then we have one more game to play that I especially like. So whenever you're ready, come on back. Okay, this game I call Once Over. And the way Once Over works is that each of these patterns is going to be 6 notes long. Right? And within that pattern, each fingering of basic scale will be used once and only once. All right? So here's the first one as an example. It's going to start on number 6, and it's going to end on 1 and take the scenic route to get there. Right? So the exact sequence was 6, 3, 4, 5, 2, 1. Right? So each note in basic scale will be used once and only once. And as a little bit of a help, because this is going to go on for a little bit, and these are harder patterns to hear for a lot of people, the last note of each pattern will be the first note of the next pattern. That is a little bit of a hint. All right, we're going to start with the pattern I just played so that you can try it yourself, and then we'll go on from there. I don't know how many there are here, 8 or 10 patterns, and we'll go through all of them, and then whenever you need to, you can always come back and review them. All right, here we go. Once over. Pattern 1. Pattern 2. Pattern 3. Pattern 4. Pattern 5. Pattern 6. Pattern 7. Pattern 8. Pattern 9. And the last one. All right, hopefully those last two felt fairly easy, right, since one was just going up basic scale and the other was coming down. Now, even with just the 6 pitches available in basic scale, there are hundreds and hundreds of these patterns that you can find. So it might be fun to try to find some of your own, of once-over patterns, every note in basic scale once and only once, and then try it out with your friends, either Zoom or Skype or however you guys like to do. Would think even FaceTime on your phone would work perfectly well to try these games together. Again, if you're finding the games useful and want more of them, just hit that like button, and you can check out all the other videos we have up at this point. And I will see you again soon. Thanks.